Most people don't question their thoughts. They respond to them, as if a thought appearing is the same thing as instruction. A thought says, "You should say something," and the body moves. Another thought says, "This is dangerous," and tension rises. No discussion, no pause. This is why thoughts feel authoritative, not because they're correct, but because they arrive fast. Speed feels like certainty, and certainty feels like truth. Thoughts are produced by the same system that produces reflexes. They're quick, unfiltered, context light, designed to keep you moving. When a thought appears, the system is already biased toward action. Thinking is not neutral. This is why some thoughts feel loud, not emotionally loud, urgent. They carry pressure. Urgency bypasses evaluation. If something feels urgent, you don't check it. You respond. The mind learned this early. As children, thoughts were guidance, warnings, instructions, rules. Don't touch. Be careful. Do this now. Thoughts were trusted because they were protective. That trust never gets re-examined. So adulthood inherits a habit, believing that every thought deserves obedience. This is why doubt feels wrong, why questioning a thought feels irresponsible, as if you're ignoring something important. But importance is not accuracy, and pressure is not intelligence. A thought is simply the system flagging something, a sensation, a memory, a prediction, not a command. But because thoughts arrive without announcing their source, they feel personal. If I'm thinking it, it must be relevant. If it's in my mind, it must require action. That assumption is the illusion. Thoughts don't speak with authority, they borrow it from your attention. The moment a thought is noticed instead of followed, distance appears. And with distance, the pressure drops. This is the beginning, not of control, but of reclassification. A thought is not an order. It's a signal that something in the system has activated. Next, we'll look at what thoughts are actually signaling, and why the content is rarely the real message. If this helped you notice something about your own mind, consider liking the video and subscribing. More of this is coming. A thought is not created in isolation. It emerges from a state, from what the system is experiencing before you're aware of it. This is the part most people miss. They focus on the content of the thought, what it says, instead of asking what produced it. Notice how thoughts change with conditions. When you're tired, the thoughts darken. When you're stressed, they narrow. When you feel threatened, they become absolute. Same mind, different state, different thoughts. That alone tells you something critical. Thoughts are responsive. They respond to internal signals: fatigue, hunger, emotion, memory, tension. They are not issuing commands. They are reporting conditions. A thought that says, "This is hopeless," is rarely about truth. It's about depletion. A thought that says, "You need to act now," is rarely wisdom. It's about urgency in the nervous system. Thoughts are the mind's way of translating bodily states into language. They give shape to sensation. They narrate pressure. That means the thought is not the problem, the state is. But most people do the opposite. They argue with the thought. They try to replace it. They fight its logic, which is like arguing with a fever. Instead of noticing you're sick. A thought saying, "I'm failing," is not a verdict. It's a signal that the system is under strain. When the system feels unsafe, thoughts become catastrophic. When the system feels constrained, thoughts become rigid. When the system feels unseen, thoughts become self-critical. The content is secondary. The condition is primary. This is why suppressing thoughts fails. You're silencing the messenger while ignoring the message. The state doesn't change. And because the state doesn't change, the thoughts return. When you see thoughts as signals, something shifts. You stop asking, "Is this thought true?" and start asking, "What condition is speaking right now?" That question removes authority. The thought no longer commands, it informs. And information doesn't need obedience, it needs interpretation. This is how distance forms, not by control, but by context. A thought is not telling you what to do, it's telling you what the system is experiencing. Next, we'll look at what happens when you stop obeying thoughts, without trying to silence them at all. Most people think the alternative to obeying thoughts is controlling them, suppressing them, replacing them, arguing with them. That's not what actually works. Thoughts don't lose authority when you fight them. They lose authority when you stop responding, not ignoring, not resisting, not engaging. When a thought appears and nothing follows, no action, no agreement, no correction, the system receives new information. It expected obedience. It didn't get it. At first, the thought escalates. It gets louder, more convincing, more urgent. This is not failure. It's the system checking if the old rule still applies. Does this still work? If you obey, the rule is reinforced. If you observe, the rule weakens. This is the part most people miss. Non-obedience is not passivity. It's interruption. A thought can exist without becoming behavior, without becoming belief, without becoming identity. The moment you see that, thoughts stop feeling dangerous. They still appear, but they no longer decide. They move through awareness instead of directing it. This is where clarity comes from, not from better thoughts, but from less obedience. You don't need to trust your thoughts. You need to understand what produces them. Over time, something shifts. The system stops shouting, because it realizes shouting no longer works. Thoughts become quieter, not because you silenced them, but because they lost authority. This is the real freedom. Not freedom from thinking, but freedom from being commanded by it. Thoughts return to what they always were, signals, not orders. If this helped you see your thoughts with more distance and less urgency, consider liking the video and subscribing. More of this is coming. Stay observant.